Hello and welcome or welcome back to the Import-Export Hub channel, everybody. Bas Bogdan here, your not so entertaining host for the next couple of minutes. I hope that you are all doing great. Thanks for joining in, by the way. And guys, without making this intro too lengthy, let's dive into today's topic, in which I will cover the imports and the exports of Germany, Europe's largest economy, who had a GDP of almost $4.3 trillion in 2020, driven mainly by services, which accounted for roughly 69%. Industry had a share in the GDP composition of some 30%, while agriculture contributed with the remaining 1%. And lastly, one quick fact, you know that I love the Logistics Performance Index. Well, according to World Bank 2023 Logistics Performance Index, Germany ranked third worldwide with an overall score of 4.1 behind Singapore and Finland. And now, guys, let's deep dive here and take a look at Germany's exports, imports, and trading partners. And as usual, I will start with the exports. And basically, we have some $1.66 trillion worth of exports for 2022, which is almost 1.7% up from the previous year, with the vehicles chapters, so chapter 87 managing to take the lead after 4 consecutive years in which it ranked second. And we have a huge value, some $257.9 billion. On the second spot, guys, we have here chapter 84, some $253.5 billion, which is down 5.8% from 2021. And the podium finishes with chapter 85, so electrical machinery and equipment, with $176.8 billion, up 0.18% relative to 2021. The top 10 export performers for Germany continues with, chapter 30, 90, 72, and ends with chapter 38 here. So miscellaneous chemical products with some $35.4 billion, up almost 7% from the previous year. And guys, overall, these top 10 partner chapters, make up for almost 69% in Germany's overall exports, which for me at least is a very, very good figure given both the depth and the breadth of Germany's economy. Moving now to Germany's imports in 2022. Well, we have here some $1.57 trillion worth of imports, some 10% more relative to 2021, with chapter 27, which was also the main import driver, contributing a lot to this increase. On the second spot, guys, we have chapter 85, some $201.3 billion, and the third spot is taken by chapter 84, with roughly $174 billion, which was down 1.55% from 2021. And the ranking continues with, chapter 87, 30, or 71 here. This last one with almost $37.8 billion worth of imports. And guys, looking at this top 10 list, it struck me how chapter 29, so organic chemical chapter, increased with some 65% in 2022. And because I'm a very, very curious person, I dug a little bit, and it seems that in the second quarter of 2022, Germany imported some, hold tight, $11 billion worth of lactams from China. And I'm not an expert here, I'm not a chemist. I've looked it on Google, and it seems that beta-lactam antibiotics are used in the management and treatment of bacterial infections. And my question here, why that much? And I don't know, it had to do with the COVID vaccine or with something else, because I find this value extremely, extremely high, and I can explain it. So guys, I'm asking you if you have any ideas about other potential uses for these lactams that could explain such an increase. Please do share it with me, with us, in the section below. Anyways, moving now to the balance of trade column, we see here that overall it is positive, some 87%, $87 billion, with chapter 87 having some $121 billion positive balance of trade, while on the negative side, chapter 27, what else really, had the largest negative contribution, some $145.3 billion. So guys, these were Germany's overall import and export performers, broken down on a chapter level if you want. And now I will take the top 5 chapters from each flow in order to see Germany's trading partners and main drivers. And I will start with the export flow, where chapter 87 was the main driver, with the United States finally reconquering the first spot in Germany's exports after 2 years in which China dominated, so in 2020 and 2021. And here we see that in 2022, Germany's exports towards the United States from this chapter amounted to some $34.8 billion, 25% more relative to the previous year. Or if you want in dollar value, $7 billion. China held the second spot in Germany's exports, while the United Kingdom took the bronze, if you want, with some $18.7 billion worth of exports. The top 10 list continues with, I don't know, France, Italy, or South Korea. This last one with almost $8.3 billion worth of imports from Germany. Now, in what concerns the compound annual growth rate for the last 5 years, at least, this is slightly negative, some 0.45%, as 2019 and 2020 contractions weren't offset by the positive figures of 2021 and 2022. But from what I saw, if the first and second quarters momentum from this year continues also in the last 2 quarters, we could have a 7% increase for 2023, some $11 billion, if I were to put a dollar figure to this percentage, which is very, very good given the current environment. On an year-on-year basis, we see that China, UK, and Austria were on the negative side, with the United Kingdom having the largest contraction, some $1 billion, while on the positive side, we have the United States, who leads the way both in absolute and relative figures. And speaking of the United States, heading 8703 drove most of US imports from Germany, while parts and accessories for tractors, so heading 8708, drove most of Poland's imports from Germany in 2022. Moving now, guys, to Germany's second export driver, we have here chapter 84 with some $253.5 billion worth of exports. Unfortunately, almost 6% down from 2021, with the United States here, Germany, and France also as the main partners, which were followed in this top 10 list by others like, I don't know, Poland, Austria, or Spain, for example. This last one managing to import some $8.2 billion worth of goods from this chapter in 2022. As we can see here, except the United States, who managed to increase its imports from Germany, the rest of 9 had negative figures, with China here having registered the largest contraction, some $2.7 billion. And speaking of China here, we see that heading 8479 drove most of the imports for China. So we are talking about machines and mechanical appliances having individual functions, while towards the United Kingdom, Germany's exports were mainly driven by parts suitable for use solely or principally with internal combustion piston engine. Okay, guys, moving now to Germany's third export driver. We have here chapter 85. So we are talking about electrical machinery with some $176.8 billion worth of exports, with China, the United States, and France as the main partners, followed in this top 10 list by others like, I know, Italy, the Czech Republic, or United Kingdom. And overall, we have 0.18% expansion in relative terms, or $323.5 million in absolute ones, with mixed results here in terms of performance, if you want, for the top 10 partners at least, as we have 5 countries who registered contractions and 5 who registered expansions. And I'll cover just the performers from each side. So on the contraction side, China had the largest absolute negative change, some $1.1 billion, while on the positive side, so expansion, the United States had the largest absolute positive change, some $1.46 billion, with the Netherlands, if I'm looking closely, coming close behind the United States with some $1.3 billion. Now, in what concerns the main export drivers, we see that for both France and Italy, smartphones were the main ones, so we are talking about heading 8517. Jumping now to Germany's fourth export driver, we have here chapter 30, so pharmaceutical products with some $124 billion worth of exports in 2022, with the United States, Italy, and the Netherlands as the main destinations, followed by others like, I don't know, Switzerland, Belgium, or Japan, to name just a few from this top 10 list. Now, in what concerns the year-on-year dynamics, we have a 5.14% expansion, translating into some $66 billion, with good positive figures coming from the United States and Italy, some $5.8 billion more imports for the former, and almost $4 billion for the latter. While on the contraction side, we have France, who in 2022 imported with almost $1.1 billion less than in the previous year. As for the main drivers, heading 3004 drove most of Germany's exports both towards Switzerland and Belgium. And now, guys, the fifth and last chapter that I will cover from the export flow is chapter 90. So with some $78.9 billion worth of exports in 2022, some $5 billion less than in 2021, with the United States here, China, and the Netherlands as the main partners, which were followed in this top 10 list by others like, I know, France, Spain, or Poland, again, to name just a couple from this top 10 list. The overall year-on-year dynamics was disappointing, as only 2 countries managed positive figures, while the rest of 8 had negative ones. The largest absolute negative change happening with China, some $987.8 million, so quite important. As for the main drivers, well, towards the Netherlands, we have heading 9002, so we are talking about the lenses, prisms, and other optical elements, while towards Spain, we have instruments and appliances used in medical, surgical, dental, or veterinary sciences, so we are talking about heading 9018. And guys, with the top performers from the export flow being covered, I will now move to the import flow, where chapter 27 was the main one, with some $207 billion worth of imports in 2022, some $79.5 billion more than in 2021, which is incredible. And I don't know if it was triggered by the crisis in Ukraine or not, but for me this is a huge increase. Areas not elsewhere specified, so the anonymization tool, if you want, used by commodity traders, was the main partner with some $74.6 billion. It was followed by the Netherlands, while the Russian Federation had the third spot with some $22.4 billion. And the list continues with other petroleum exporters like, I don't know, the United States, Kazakhstan, or Libya. This last one managing to export some $3.7 billion towards Germany in 2022. As we can see, all the top 10 partners had positive figures, so very, very good times for the traders. So while in what concerns the main drivers, we see that from areas not elsewhere specified, we have petroleum gas heading 2711. With Qatar and the United States as big contributors, if you ask me. I am not 100% sure, of course. It's just an educated guess, let's say. While from Norway, we have crude petroleum, so heading to 709. Jumping now, guys, to Germany's second largest import driver. We have here chapter 85, electrical machinery and parts thereof, with just $201.3 billion, 11.4% more than in 2022, with China here, Hungary, and Poland as the main partners, followed by others like, I don't know, the United States, Malaysia, or France. This last one managing to export some $5.9 billion towards Germany, slightly down from the previous year. Now, relative to the year-on-year dynamics, we have an absolute positive change of $20.6 billion, with very, very good figures coming from China. So basically 50% of this positive change is attributed to China. While on the other side of the spectrum, we have Poland, Japan, and also France with contractions, with Poland here having the largest absolute negative change, some $1.1 billion fewer exports towards Germany in 2022. As for the main drivers, well, we have electric accumulators coming from Hungary, while from Taiwan we have heading 8542. So we are talking about electronic integrated circuits parts thereof. And guys, with this being covered as well, let's move to the third largest import driver for 2022, which was chapter 84, and we have some $174 billion worth of imports, with China, the United States, and Poland as the main partners, followed by others like, I don't know, Italy, Austria, or Switzerland, again, to mention just a couple from this top 10 list. We see a contraction of roughly 1.6% relative to 2021, which translated to some $2.7 billion, as China, Germany's largest partner for this chapter, so its exports shrunk with almost $1.8 billion. And in fact, we have just 3 countries who managed to increase their exports towards Germany in 2022, and these were the United States, Poland, and Japan. This last one with just $11.2 million. And guys, speaking of Japan here, we see that its main export driver towards Germany was heading 8443, so we are talking about printing machinery, while automatic data processing machines was China's main export driver in 2022. Moving now, guys, to Germany's fourth largest import driver. We have here chapter 87, so a lot of intra-chapter trading for Germany, with $137 billion worth of imports in 2022, with the Czech Republic, Spain, and France as Germany's main import partners, followed by others like, I don't know, Poland, Slovakia, or Austria, again, to mention just a couple from this top 10 list. And overall, in 2022, the imports from this chapter increased with some 1.7%, or $2.25 billion. And except Spain, France, Hungary, Italy also, and lastly Austria, who all had contractions, the rest of 5 had expansions. The largest one happening in relation with China, some $1.3 billion more imports from this country, which is almost 27% in relative terms. Basically, a figure that helped offset the negative performance of the other partners. Now, in terms of the main drivers, well, we have motor cars coming from Spain, mostly Seat, if you ask me, while from China we have parts and accessories for the auto industry, so we are talking about heading 8708. And finally, guys, the fifth and last chapter that I will cover today is chapter 30, pharmaceutical products, with some $79 billion worth of imports for 2022, just 0.18% more than in 2021, with Ireland here, the United States and Belgium as the main partners, followed by others like the Netherlands, United Kingdom, or Spain. This last one managing to export towards Germany some $3.5 billion worth of goods, relating, of course, to this particular chapter. Now, in what concerns the year-on-year dynamics, as I've said, we have a positive change, even though in this top 10 list we have two naughty countries, if you want, who managed to export less, so Belgium and Switzerland. But these were offset by the good figures coming from United Kingdom and Ireland, especially United Kingdom, with some $1.7 billion more exports towards Germany. And just for your information, guys, please take a look at the highlighted cells here, which basically represents the largest trading partner for a particular year, and watch how dynamic this sector is. In 2018, the Netherlands was Germany's main partner. Then we have 2 years in which the United States was the main one. Then in 2021, we have Belgium, and lastly, Ireland in 2022. Anyways, I thought it's worth mentioning, as the other chapters, I don't know if you paid close attention, were not that dynamic. And lastly, guys, in what concerns the main drivers, well, we have heading 3004 coming from Ireland and human blood and animal blood prepared for therapeutic or diagnostic use coming from Switzerland. And personally, guys, I hope that the blood doesn't have a high glucose content, given the fact that Switzerland is also known for its chocolaterie industry. Joke aside, guys, that's all for today. Thanks for watching. I hope you've liked it. Don't forget to hit whatever button you like below this video. And as usual, until next time, keep your business safe. Thanks.